The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Hello, my prodigal sons and daughters. I am your humble host, Hollywood, and today
is a red letter day.
Boys and girls, it's that time. The stars have aligned, and I find myself writing a retrospective on one of the most beloved and influential games of all time. That's right, it's time to talk about Half-Life 2. I actually didn't think I ever would, because this game is so well known and well covered that I thought it would be superfluous to add my thoughts and voice. But inspiration is as fickle as a teenager choosing an outfit to wear, and sometimes it's best to let the current take you where it guides. This is also the 20th year anniversary since Half-Life 2 graced our computer screens, so I expect there will be more coverage of this game to come. So let's explore the ruins and depths of City 17 and see what made this title so good, and maybe what hasn't held up over the years too. Strap into your airboats, kids, and take a ride as your dad plays Half-Life 2. 2004 was an incredible year for gaming. The early 2000s were awe-inspiring and a highly creative time in the industry. Ideas and projects were breaking new ground as technology was rapidly evolving. More ambitious games than history had seen before were finally becoming a reality. Developers from every side of the globe were flexing their creative muscles, and it was a fantastic time to be a gamer.
Yes!
2004 was especially innovative, with the likes of Doom 3, Far Cry, Spider-Man 2, World of Warcraft, and Star Wars Battlefront, all releasing just that year. Another little throwaway game that released just past the mark in January of 2005 was only Resident Evil 4. Some of the most long-lived and prolific game series ever were birthed that year, and I didn't understand the whole significance of what I was witnessing at the time, but I understood how crucial and important Half-Life 2 was as a game. More than the game it was, is the legacy it now leaves. It has left an indelible mark on the industry that has shaped the very foundations of what we see today. Much like the iPhone shaped the supercomputers that each of us carry in our pockets, Half-Life 2 was the conduit that Valve astutely used to bring the Steam platform to millions of homes across the globe. It is because of Half-Life 2 and the Orange Box that Steam is a household name. For the 3 or 4 youngins who may be unaware of what this game is, Half-Life 2 is a linear, story-driven, first-person shooter that has a heavy focus on action and memorable set pieces. This game picks up approximately 20 years after the events in Half-Life and the resonance cascade of Black Mesa, but the timeline has never been 100% clear. Gordon Freeman was placed into stasis by the G-Man at the end of that story.
I have recommended your services to my employers. If you're interested, just step into the portal and I will take that as a yes. Time to choose. Wisely done, Mr. Freeman.
And here we find the world quite changed by the events of Half-Life. The portal technology that Black Mesa was working on opened the door to the unknown. Some really malevolent forces took notice, and the Earth has been conquered by an alien race known only as the Combine. All the resources are being taken, and humanity is being enslaved and assimilated. This is the world that Gordon finds at the start. Enough of the history for now. Let's cut into the meat and start this game properly.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... well, let's just say your hour has come again.
The game begins with a rather confusing opening if you were unaware of the history. The G-Man gives us a message to wake up and smell the ashes, as we find ourselves on a train in a generic Eastern European city. Walking through the train station and observing all the despair in the civilians sets the tone of the world that we awakened to.
You never see them go. They're always full. No one ever gets on, but they're always departing, but they never arrive.
Whether you are
And the ones that do arrive, they never leave.
The Civil Protection Force maintains a presence here that is oppressive and vile, and redolent of the Gestapo from World War II. It still feels amazing and immersive to have guards demanding that you... laughing to themselves as they abuse their power. All the while, people are searching for loved ones coming off the train that, sadly, will never get a reunion.
Are you the only ones on that train?
Overwatch stopped our train in the woods and took my husband for questioning. They said he'd be on the next train. I'm not sure when that was. They're being nice, though, letting me wait for him.
So nice. They still cling to hope that they will see their loved ones as they refuse to leave. Propaganda and submissive language is being televised non-stop on all displays.
in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors.
The person reciting this drivel is none other than Dr. Wallace Breen, who was the administrator of Black Mesa from the first game, and is now a turncoat and stool pigeon to help the Combine retain control of the populace. The animations of the characters were the best in the business up to that point, with fluid movements frame to frame. This really sold the experience and heightened the immersion, and it still looks great to this day. Wandering the station, we find ourselves in a queue for the train to Nova Prospekt. An old friend from our tenure at Black Mesa comes to our rescue, as Barney, the security guard, is undercover in the ranks of the CP.
About that beer I owed you. It's me, Gordon, Barney from Black Mesa.
The epitome of not all heroes wear capes, Mr. Calhoun is helping as many people as he can by not beating the ever-loving shit out of them on a regular basis.
All performance issues, it's not uncommon. 1 out of 5.
He also directs survivors to the Underground Railroad that leads to a steadily growing rebellion, and, not so coincidentally, is the same path we must follow. Stacking some boxes to jump through a window allows us a quick and discreet exit. Leaving the train station gives us one of the best introductions to any game world up to that point. The cold, black walls that barricade various streets and buildings are the imposing sentinels that accompany the Civil Protection. Dr. Breen is constantly spewing propaganda at everybody in the courtyard.
First, let us consider the fact that for the first time ever, as a species, immortality is in our reach.
The blinding camera flash from an Orwellian probe may trigger someone's epilepsy as it surveils the streets. This dystopian nightmare is jaw-dropping. Although the real eye-catching set piece is the immeasurably tall spire that looms in the distance. Vanishing into the clouds, this monolith is called the Citadel, and it is easily seen in the skyline from almost every area of the game. The Combine are the despotic race of aliens that have conquered Earth after the Black Mesa resonance cascade opened us up for an attack. They have set up controlling outposts all over Earth, and City 17 is one of the main stations. And the Citadel really gives a sense of scale to the operations here. It also gives us a goal, something to work toward as we progress in the game. The Citadel will be a reminder of the scope and the power we face. A clear enemy and objective is so critical in a narrative experience like this, and replaying the game with fresh eyes makes me appreciate these details all the more. Wandering the streets gives us more examples of the quote-unquote protection that the civil service offers, and we also get another glimpse of the physics engine at work through a simple playground. Well, that was underwhelming. The physics that this game used were revolutionary for games back in those days. Games like Red Faction helped pave the way with impressive destructible environments that have never been tried to that degree ever since. But the Havoc physics engine that was modified by Valve was the next step in technology that could realistically simulate object weight and velocity. So much so that Valve leaned into the physics-based puzzles maybe a little too much, as they were very proud parents.
Well, actually, Matt, Ellen and I have encouraged Brian in his
physics-based puzzles.
Dad, I wish you could just shut your big yapper!
Not to mention the gravity gun that was introduced in this game, allowing for some insane combat and tactics never before seen to this degree in a first-person shooter. Although that claim is disputed by a little-remembered game called PsyOps, released just a few months ahead of Half-Life 2. And it allowed you to pull objects to use for cover, and even to float and surf your character to higher areas of the levels if the player jumped on an object and manipulated it with telekinesis. Maybe I'll do a video on PsyOps one day, because it is criminally underappreciated. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, because the opening of Half-Life 2 is fantastic. It takes enough time to establish the setting and motivations to immerse the player in the world, and it showcases the new graphics engine perfectly. We get caught up in a building raid by the CP and need to make a run for it. Dodging civil protection here gives a little look at the might of the Combine, and avoiding the fuzz feels like a narrow call.
Dr. Freeman, I presume. I better hurry.
We finally encounter Alex Vance, and we end up in the lab of Dr. Kleiner. And this is a masterful introduction to the character of Alex, as she saves the mute, certified badass of Gordon Freeman from the Combine, and establishes herself as a capable fighter, as well as a scientist and mechanic. We'll go into more depth on her character, and why she's so important later. But for now, we are reunited with the HEV suit. And we are given an experience with the portal technology that caused the resonance cascade from the first game. This whole segment is perfectly paced, and we get enough details to start putting things together. Dr. Isaac Kleiner has also adopted a headcrab, whom he named Lamar. She has been debeaked and is perfectly harmless. Lamar is a cool little Zen puppy that Dr. Kleiner has named after Hedy Lamar. As a quick aside, I want to give the utmost respect and gratitude to the beautiful actress and scientist, Miss Lamar. Her contributions to the radio frequency realm of science made a serious difference for the Allies in World War II, because she and her neighbor, George Anthiel, discovered frequency hopping. This allowed torpedoes to reach their intended targets without being susceptible to radio jamming. This discovery went on to be used to develop Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS, and she doesn't get enough credit for her brilliance and contribution beyond her beauty and acting. The name of this cute little damsel is a nice touch that Mark Laidlaw had put into the narrative framework. The characters feel fleshed out, with history, heroes, and stories of their own. The acting is great to watch from a first-person view, and writing a compelling story for a mute protagonist was challenging. Not to mention there are no cutscenes, and the player has freedom of movement for almost the entire experience. So I'm amazed that the characterization is as good as it is. The story scenes happen quickly, and a ton of information is relayed in just a few minutes of dialogue and action. It's done so well that I never had the urge to skip ahead. I wanted to see what happens, and hear the banter between the characters, even though I've played this game many times before. It's here in the story that things take a turn. Dr. Eli Vance and Isaac Kleiner practically invented the portal technology that was part of the top-secret undertakings at Black Mesa, and it seems this dream team has had time to perfect their calculations in the years since. That is, until the Zen puppy, Lamar, makes for some unaccounted variables. We almost become one with Lamar.
What's going on with this thing?
And after a short cinematic in-game sequence, we alert the esteemed Mr. Breen to our presence in City 17. What ensues is a tense progression to reach Eli Vance's lab and home on the other side of the city. This is also where the game really gets started. A 20-minute opening without firing a single shot is actually a good thing. This intro style also echoes the tram introduction from Black Mesa, where you have a good deal of time to get acquainted with the setting, and it makes the following events more impactful.
Oh, and before I forget, I think you dropped this back in Black Mesa. Good luck out there, buddy. You're gonna need it.
The design of the Civil Protection is great. Their faceless uniforms are a perfect representation of what humanity will become once we've assimilated with the Combine. The poor humans that have already been brainwashed or physically altered to the Combine tyranny are a lost cause. But the lowest branch of Civil Protection is mostly comprised of humans that have volunteered to subdue their own species. It is thought-provoking to consider the motivations of such people. Whether they thought to be on the winning side or they saw the CP as their best form of survival, their choices and actions are unforgivable. The design of the uniforms are imposing and soulless and would fit any tyrannical occupation. It's also a lovely touch to hear the EKG flatline when fighting these guys too. It lets you know they are truly out of the fight and feels more impactful with the ragdoll effects. They will also release the manhacks if they get the chance. These flying buzzsaw drones will doggedly chase you down and do chip damage as they bounce around the environment like deranged Tinker Toys. Their murderous helicopter rotors create an unmistakable sound that herald their coming like the trumpets before a royal procession. While they look extremely dangerous and unfriendly, they prove to be minor annoyances. Before you get the gravity gun, all you need is your crowbar and mouse 1. After acquiring the gravity gun, it's even more of a joke, as you can easily send these things into walls or objects or even enemies. It's cathartic to use all the weapons of the enemy against them, and make them regret ever pulling out those flying toys in the first place. Following the Underground Railroad to reach Dr. Vance, the Combine seemed to be one step ahead of us. Radio chatter between checkpoints makes us aware that the Combine know what they've been up to, and they're bringing down the hammer.
Station 12, come in. This is Station 8. We heard 12 go down and out. Surgical strike units are targeting railway stations. Repeat, Civil Protection is coming down on underground stations. We're already getting refugees from 9 and outlying. Looks like we're...
Imperial troops have entered space. Imperial troops have entered... Come on, that's it.
My guess would be that the Combine have known about the Underground Railroad for some time, and were letting it happen to try and get more intel on the key people in the rebellion. Once Gordon Freeman shows up, they shut it down quickly and efficiently to help capture Gordon. Cool details like that really help the narrative, and I love what I'm seeing so far. It's actually better than I remembered in this regard. We also get a look at the headcrab insertion pods at work, as we come across the first zombies of Half-Life 2. I've always admired the headcrab design from the first game, and the second only expounds on their composition and models. The white crab-like creatures attempt to jump on you and attach themselves to your head. If successful, they will then take over your body and use it to attack anyone not already turned. Unlike traditional zombies, I don't think these poor bastards are reanimated dead. There is a low level of awareness to the victim, as they can be heard wailing and begging for death underneath their white fleshy hoods. Sorry. Of all the ways to die in this world, I expect that would be one of the worst ways to go. At least with the Combine brainwashing and repurposing, there is no consciousness left in you. The head writer of the game is Mark Laidlaw. He also writes horror along with science fiction, and it shows. After a fight through train yards, sewers, and canals, we are given the keys to the airboat. The water hazard segment of the game is one of my favorites. The fully controllable vehicles were new to the Half-Life franchise, and there are 2 big portions of this game that are designed around the vehicles. Now, some of the coolest moments are found in Water Hazard, but the pacing kind of drags. This section just feels a little too long, and the airboat wears out its welcome just a bit.
Well, la-de frickin' da!
That being said, it has a strong opening with a structure along the shoreline of the riverbed. This turns out to be a beautifully realized freight depot. This was utilized as a checkpoint in the Underground Railroad, as we were told by the rebel who gave us the airboat. But the Combine are indeed one step ahead of the railroad and Gordon, as they shelled this station just hours before we arrived. Now there is nothing but death in the old red barn. We'll also notice how low the water level is in the river. It's almost a dry bed at this point, with old docks and equipment maybe 20 to 30 feet above the current level. This indicates the catastrophic effects of the Combine occupation on the planet. They are harvesting all the resources, and soon this will all be dust and ash if we don't act.
That is nothing.
The wooden structure we find ourselves in looks like it would actually be used once upon a time to load freight onto passing boats traveling up the river. The winch and pulley system is now used for a quick supply cache, and the helicopter flying by is a portent of things to come. This area is fantastic and memorable, with some great environmental storytelling. Looking closely will grant you a glimpse of our mysterious bureaucrat, the G-Man. Hello? This is the calm before the storm, as you can hear that chopper in the distance, searching for us. And we solve another physics puzzle. The little physics puzzles that break up the run-and-gun gameplay haven't aged as well as the rest of the game, and I found myself groaning when I came across another one. The storm arrives, and we are thrust into a chase that rivals the Bourne Identity for thrills and over-the-top action. This is the first time we see the full might of the Combine come down, as they send everyone after us.
Betty? Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Bullets whizzing by the boat and splashing inches away on the surface of the water is awesome, while CP agents rappel off bridges to try and apprehend us. APCs launch missiles from the shore, and alien gunships barrage the canal with turret fire. This continues for 20 minutes, with some sections where you need to get off the boat to open a gate or clear the way. As a last-ditch effort to capture Freeman, they launch headcrab pods and knock down some smokestacks to block the path. It really gives a feeling of how overpowered these guys are, and we're still getting away. Helicopters drop bombs and fire their turrets to prevent the escape, and when you're flying down a drainpipe at 50 miles per hour, their gunfire ricochets off the walls, like an angry predator that can't catch their prey. The dry riverbed also makes for a great natural barrier, and creates a path for the scripted events to be so effective. Clever use of the environment is far superior to invisible walls to restrict the player. Games like Skyrim and The Witcher 3 can't possibly use the environment like this because they're open world, but that doesn't make it any less ridiculous when you simply hit an invisible wall.
Attention swimmer! Attention swimmer! You are too far! Return immediately!
I also really want to talk about how wonderful this soundtrack is. Kelly Bailey made a thumpingly good OST that complements everything perfectly. The techno beats and industrial rock echo through the headphones while you're fighting the forces of the Combine. Hearing the tracks play in the background while you're working on a project is great, but it's truly remarkable to hear it as it was intended in the game. So well done, Mr. Bailey, for this iconic score. Finally making it to the next railroad station, we get an upgrade to the airboat to make it more lethal. Now with extra firepower, it's time for payback on the bitch of a helicopter that's been plaguing our progression for the last half hour. The hunters become the hunted as we wreak havoc on everything in our path. The pseudo-boss fight with the helicopter at the end of this section is awesome. Oh! There's an Easter egg of singing Vortigons in one of the drainpipes in this area, and I tried to get footage for it, but I'm ashamed to say that I forgot exactly where it was and how to see it, because apparently I am old. Regardless, there are some truly spectacular moments in Water Hazard that make it worth a playthrough, even if the airboat section drags on just a tad too long. Stopping in the bases will expose more propaganda by Wallace Breen, as he tries to rally the troops against Gordon and the survivors. This bloviating blowhard only serves to steal everyone's resolve against the Combine, as it's very obvious our efforts are making a difference. Ironically, it would have been better if Breen had kept his mouth shut, but it's good characterization that he wouldn't be aware enough to properly read the situation. He is more of an academic than a strategist, and this whole scenario is above his pay grade. There are also quiet moments that I forgot about, that can be had after an area is cleared out of enemies, such as these wind chimes. You can relax for a moment and look around at the orange and purple sunlight dancing on the clouds as the sun goes down. You can hear a gentle breeze blowing through the hilltops, like a steady change is coming, and you think that you might actually make a difference. Stopping to smell the roses before the next battle in life is important, boys and girls. Whether you're playing a video game or you're about to head into your next job interview, appreciate those moments because they make life worth it.
Here is your tea.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Sharing tea with a fascinating stranger is one of life's true delights.
We finally make it to Black Mesa East and Eli Vance's lab. It's another neat little point that one of the biggest leaders of this resistance has set up a small science lab off of a hydroelectric dam. Tapping into the power station would give them all the electricity needed for such a place, and being in such close proximity to the power source might be hard to notice if they hide themselves well enough.
Gordon Freeman? Is that you? You've made it here this quickly. Well, Eli is going to be amazed, not to mention relieved. I'm Dr. Mossman, Dr. Judith Mossman.
Going through a scanning process to ensure we're human, we are introduced to Judith Mossman. She is a fabulous scientist in her own right, but she knows deep down she can't hold a candle to Eli. Observing the scene between Judith, Eli, and Alex reminds me how much of a family drama they wrote for this group. I had forgotten how much of a stepmother role that Judith had fallen into, and the bit of resentment that comes through from Alex is spot on.
Alex? I thought you were on watch.
The Vortigons relieved me so I could come see Gordon. Anyway, I should be in here working on the portal.
I have the repairs well in hand. Someone misjudged the capacity of the Combine thyristor.
Are you blaming me?
No, not at all. It was a calculation error, not a mechanical problem.
Then maybe you should let me do the calculations next time, as well as installing it.
Alex, really? Sometimes I think you deliberately misunderstand me.
Alex, why don't you take Gordon along and give him some practice with the gravity gun?
Sure. Come on, Gordon.
It's not just resentment, though. Alex doesn't trust Judith, and the scene is acted perfectly. The actors portraying these characters are Merle Dandridge as Alex, Robert Guillaume as Eli, and Michelle Forbes as Judith. They all do excellent work here, and they owned these roles. The subtle voice work from Michelle Forbes is truly outstanding, as there is something not quite right about her character. If you are playing for the first time, you may catch that hint of surprise and disappointment when she greets you, and be a little suspicious and off-put. But that mask she's using comes back up so effortlessly that it's hard to pin down her motivations. For those who don't know, Judith Mossman betrays the resistance and hands Eli over to the Combine. Her work as a spy in the ranks is so entangled with the family drama that it's easy to write off the negative aspects of her interactions as frustration and a crippling lack of self-confidence. Merle Dandridge and Robert Guillaume deserve all the credit for their work, but I think Michelle Forbes doesn't get enough. Her character was arguably the most layered and one of the hardest performances to pull off. Miss Forbes nails it here. She also played Revis from the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena, which, ironically, is a weaker character, despite being a stronger personality and presence on screen.
Oh, I'd love to stay and chat, but, well, you know... Kill him!
Merle Dandridge notably played Marlene from The Last of Us in the game and HBO show.
I lost most of my crew crossing the country. I pretty much lost everything. And then you show up and somehow we find you just in time to save her. Maybe it was meant to be.
Sadly, Robert Guillaume passed away in 2017 at the age of 89. He gave us some brilliant performances throughout his career, as Rafiki in The Lion King and Benson Dubois from Soap and Benson. He will be missed, and I'm grateful he was able to finish the story arc for Eli Vance before his passing, as it just wouldn't have been the same without him, no matter who they may have cast as a replacement.
Let me get a look at you, man. My God, you haven't changed one iota. How do you do it? We'll get you out of that hazard suit and back into your lab coat where you belong.
Now, as great as this cast is, they can't possibly compete with the best character in the game. The goodest boy with a body of steel and a heart of gold is a goddamn treasure. And even if you are a die-hard cat person, Dog will win your heart and steal the show. We will be seeing him again. After finally acquiring the gravity gun, we play a rousing game of catch with the intrepid metal canine. The fun only lasts a minute, as the alarm is raised, and the base is raided by the Combine. Gordon's presence was the final straw for Dr. Mossman, and she contacted the Fuzz, although we aren't supposed to know that yet.
My, here come the Fuzz.
Escaping down the passage that leads to Ravenholm, Gordon comes upon the derelict town, and there have been some radical changes. Ravenholm was once a growing hub for survivors to gather, and that was the seat of the rebellion. Once the Combine caught wind of what was happening, they shelled the ever-loving shit out of the place with headcrab pods. Everybody that didn't get out was turned into zombies, which is why Alex told us previously.
That's the old passage to Ravenholm. We don't go there anymore.
This is one of the most memorable parts of the whole game, as the tone shifts dramatically from action to horror. The lighting is dark and atmospheric. The denizens lumber about and steal the show. 3 types of zombies inhabit the town. The basic shambler, which we've encountered. The venomous infected that launch toxic and black crabs at you. And the speed freak zombies that terrorize you with blood-curdling screams as they leap towards you to finish you off. The sound design is brilliant once again, as all of these variants make individual noises to help identify the threats along with the visuals. The Speed Freak variant emits an alarmed wail that echoes through the buildings and in the distance, and you will see them bounding across the rooftops as they prepare an attack. The blackened bodies of the venomous headcrabs are an indicator of deadly neurotoxin, and they will rattle like a diamondback to let you know of the impending danger. Another piercing cry will alert you that they are about to pounce and do massive damage that takes your health down to 1 point as the HEV suit administers the antivenom. Your health will regenerate only in this instance, but you are severely weakened for a few precious moments. In the melee, those moments may be your last if you don't get the fuck out of there. And that detail is really good from a gameplay perspective, but doesn't make a ton of practical sense. Why would a creature that is trying to hunt and envenomate its prey even have a rattle to warn their victims? Still, they are striking in design, and Ravenholm feels like a bad dream come true. This area is also a showcase for the new gravity gun. In a previous life, this town must have manufactured these giant saw blades for log cutting, because these things are fucking everywhere, and pulling them in with the gun immediately orients them for maximum damage. Launching the buzzsaws into crowds of zombies is still glorious and cathartic. The paint cans don't do a ton of damage, but they will coat the enemies in a white sheen, and the walls will get splattered as well, which is all terrific. Ravenholm is a horrific bloodbath that gives you all the right toys to play in the tub.
Oh, don't look at my bum. I caught you sneaking a peek, cheeky monkeys, all of you.
Father Grigori has taken it upon himself to watch over this flock of infected dead. His introduction is iconic, and he has set up traps for the zombies all through the town.
What? Who is this? Another life to save? I'll keep my eye on you. More than that, I cannot promise.
Spinning blades attached to the shafts of electric motors rend the hapless zombies limb from limb. Giant propane tanks give the fuel for the various flame traps around the city streets, and winches hoist up the full-size cars on steel cables to drop onto the unsuspecting Grateful Dead. His maniacal laughter reverberates down the streets as he watches Gordon's progress. I'm not so sure that I would want this madman in a survivor camp, as I don't think he would fit in very well. This is his true element, and the work of the Combine gives him purpose and resolve. The last part of the Ravenholm experience is a stressful bit of tower defense, while we wait for the world's slowest gondola.
Ah, there you are! At last! I will send the cart for you, brother. It will be but a moment. Patience, brother.
Our dear priest has set up a safe zone of sorts, and the only way in is to wait for this rickety aerial cable car? Really?
This ain't a bridge. It's termites holding hands.
We're going over it.
Not me. I wouldn't go over this thing on a skateboard.
We're going over it. Have a little faith in the craftsmanship of our forefathers.
Your forefathers, not my forefathers. Oh, Lord.
The way the drain pipes rattle against the side of the building as the speed freaks climb up for a final farewell is chilling.
Are coming.
Having to look in 3 different directions to see where the danger is coming from is a brilliant bit of tension building, and I don't have to tell you what it means when all 3 pipes are rocking at the same time. Just bring an extra pair of underoos for this one, okay? After meeting the valiant man of God face to face, this section ends with a great battle through a graveyard. Father Grigori leads us down to the exit and elects to stay with this putrid congregation.
Farewell, brother. I fear I deliver you to a darker place. May the light of lights illuminate your path. Look to your own salvation.
And so ends our time in Ravenholm. This part of the game may not be everyone's favorite, but it is popular among the Half-Life veterans for the atmosphere and the environmental storytelling. The developers were able to weave a scary short story into an already broad novel, and this game wouldn't be the same without it. Also, there was no better way to give the player the shotgun than by throwing waves of zombies at them to properly play with their new toy. After blasting our way through the unfortunate victims, we get through some underground mines with plenty of headcrabs to sort out. Snipers have set up shop for a cool little side hustle, and their reactions when a grenade flies in the window are pretty sweet. The last hour and a half was awesome with the set pieces and characters, so the next bit is bound to be great too, right? Well, not so much. Highway 17 has me divided on if it's good or not. Alex contacts a rebellion checkpoint and relays that her father has been captured and taken to Nova Prospect.
Gordon, you made it through Ravenholm. Thank God. I need your help. They've taken my father. He's been taken to Nova Prospect. The Vortigaunts tracked the ship that made off with him and Judith Mossman.
She asks Gordon for help to liberate him from Combine control. A car is introduced as a means to get there, gassed up and ready to go. As a story device, it makes perfect sense to travel the good distance to Nova Prospect in a car to save a ton of time, as well as adding some combat tactics using the car. From a pacing perspective, this segment drags on too long as well. The opening bit of fighting the gunship with the new laser-guided rocket is thrilling, and if you've never played before, the direction from Colonel Odessa Covage is actually very helpful.
Using the laser guide, you can steer your rocket past the gunship's defenses and prevent it from shooting down your rocket.
Hot riding on this.
Damn if that isn't delicious.
The antlions chase you down the beach when you drive over the sand, and they are indiscriminate in whom they attack, with Combine and Rebel forces being overrun along the shoreline. The Combine have set up stomping towers to deter the antlions as a sort of barrier. Sprinting through the checkpoints to turn them off and watch the bugs take care of business is exceptional. The antlions themselves have been transported to Earth along with the Vortigaunts and headcrabs. All of these different creatures add so many layers to the story of the Combine, and more context to their bloody history. It also offers unexpected allies in the fight, as Human and Vortigaunt take up the struggle together. The Vorts are truly some of the most humble and beautiful beings in the game, and it makes you feel like a real asshole for fighting them in the first game. Highway 17 continues with an impressive magnet crane that you use to move your car to the next area. The scale of this object was very ambitious, even by today's standards. with the shipping containers and steel beams to play around with while soldiers pepper the control cab with gunfire. This area highlights the strengths and weaknesses of the early Source games. Havoc physics were second to none, and some clever level design makes playing through this area a blast, as well as feel like a place you might see in reality. The loading dock with the magnet crane to help move shipping containers is brilliantly realized, and the surrounding industrial buildings and storage houses flesh out the area nicely, with the grand exit through the warehouse window to cap the level. The beach again echoes the resource scavenging, as the water level is far below the dock lines, and the boats just sit in the sand to rot many yards away from the water. But you juxtapose these great details with the draw distance that is frankly disappointing, and open environments that are barren, aside from the odd house or boat, and it becomes clear that early Source games excelled at claustrophobic city streets and sewer lines, but open areas are ugly by comparison. Part of this is due to the water level of the environment, and beaches themselves are pretty barren from details, but Highway 17 is simply the ugliest level of the game. The water itself was impressive for the time, but it's static, with no waves or surf along the shoreline. Another game that released the same month as Half-Life 2 was Killzone. It was a PlayStation 2 exclusive, and it had less computing resources to work with. Killzone still managed to create a very impressive beach environment, with overlaid textures to give an illusion of waves and surf, along with water spray coming off the waves, like the wind was realistically blowing the water droplets everywhere. And this part of Half-Life 2 is underwhelming. It is 20 years old, and this is really a nitpick, but that's what we're here for, isn't it? Traversing across the impressive bridge from underneath using the framework and scaffolding while the trains rumble above is epic.
Fine, man.
Fighting gunships and soldiers to turn off the power gate to open the way is quite good. Proceeding to go down the tracks, only to have to turn around and outrun an oncoming train, is wildly entertaining, and it makes this level feel like an action movie. The moment where we pick up the crossbow is great, and pinning enemies to walls and watching them dangle never gets old. The lighthouse fight with multiple gunships as you sprint from building to building gathering more rockets and health is intense and brilliant. But for every awesome moment, like the bridge or the lighthouse, there are 3 more moments of tedious driving or yet another physics puzzle to solve before progressing. The pacing feels slightly off, and I get the impression that Valve could have cut roughly 30% of the levels from Highway 17, and the game would have been better off. Highway 17 is a slog, interspersed with exciting moments and set pieces. I'm kind of torn if I like it or not. Thankfully, I don't have such a divided impression of Nova Prospekt.
You there! Stop where you are! Stay on the rocks! Don't step on the sand, it makes the antlions crazy! Laszlo, don't move! No. Help!
Creeping along the sand while making a path with the gravity gun to avoid the antlions is just long enough to be memorable and not wear out its welcome. The ensuing battle with the antlion guard is glorious and adds more layers to the insect-alien hierarchy. Popping out of the sand and immediately summoning lesser lions is intimidating, and taking down the guard is no small feat. I used all of my .357 Magnum ammo, as well as shotgun shells and crossbow bolts. I finally was able to remove the guard from life with a rocket launcher after weakening him with all the gunfire. The Vortigaunt nearby extracts some pheromone pods to control the antlions with, and the real action begins.
The Freemen would do wise to heed our extraction of the Myrmidont's aromatic pheropods. The process is not entirely hygienic, therefore stand aside.
Summoning 3 or 4 lions to help fight the Combine may be my favorite part of the game. Storming the beach fortifications and infiltrating the prison in Nova Prospekt is spectacular. Antlions overrunning the Combine forces and tipping the balance of power is amazing. Like the Combine never saw this coming and were completely unprepared. The whole story arc reaches a high in this section too. By taking the fight right to their doorstep and freeing Eli Vance from overwhelming forces, we prove that this rebellion is no mere pawn in the game. This is a proper war that the Combine need to take very seriously. Nova Prospekt itself was once a prison. Now that it's been repurposed, it more closely resembles a staging point of sorts. Survivors are brought in through the rail system and prepped to be shipped to the Citadel, or they are tortured for information. From there, they are either turned into slaves like the heavy soldier forces, or the creepy stalkers that mindlessly serve the Combine and help protect the Citadel. We find the derelict prison in a state of disrepair, which allows antlions to storm certain areas of the compound. It also allows antlion guards to enter the fray at key moments. I love the attention to detail, as the lesser lions vacate the scene when a guard shows up. They won't help either Gordon or the guard until one of them is dead and the alpha is decided. The battle for Nova Prospekt is stiff and stressful. Several areas see the use of auto turrets, and we can take control, setting up the turrets as waves of soldiers pour in to stop this insurrection. These areas should be some of the hardest in the game, but I found myself easily able to cheese these encounters by simply holding onto a turret and not letting go. Soldiers will try and knock it down, but as long as Gordon has it in his hands, that's a useless endeavor. It also acts as a small shield for gunfire, and I had full health in every one of these encounters. Simply disabling the turrets until they are placed on the ground would have stopped the Velveeta. But I digress, and I love me some cheese. Finally breaking through the prison and entering a Combine-manufactured structure, we free Eli, and Judith plays her hand as a traitor.
Alex, whatever you may think, I assure you I have worked to protect your father.
Shut up and be glad you're still some use to us. We're going to reconfigure this teleport and get the hell out of here.
You see, we're working to the same end. I've already reprogrammed the modulator to emulate a Zen relay.
That's my father's work you stole.
It's my work too.
Dad, down here. Sorry we took so long. I hope that wasn't too bad for you.
Don't worry about me, sweetheart. Judith! I see they set you free.
Not exactly.
Eli! I was so worried about you.
The coordinates, Dr. Mossman.
She brazenly teleports away with Eli, right in front of Alex and Gordon. Judith helped make the teleporter in Nova Prospekt, and she knows exactly how it works. So she takes off to the Citadel. It's another wonderful factor that the teleporter in Nova Prospekt is capable of prisoner transport within their containment vessel, and the victim never has to leave their constraints to get beamed right into the heart of the Citadel. This still bothers me that Eli wasn't freed from the containment vessel before getting shipped off with Judith, but I'll allow it, as it still makes sense in the story, and with the Combine breaking down the gate to stop their escape, I'm sure that aspect didn't seem high on the priority list.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, Alex. It's the only way.
No! Get back!
What's going on,
Dad!
Alex? Judith! No! What's happening?
Think, Alex, think. Dr. Kleiner, you have to stop them.
Stop who, my dear?
Oh my god! What coordinates are these? Where the hell did she take him?
I absolutely love the dialogue between Alex and her father, and the love between these characters truly feels like a genuine father-daughter relationship. Eli imploring his daughter to leave him behind is gut-wrenching, and the flat refusal by Alex is expected.
Alex, Gordon, is that really you? I can't believe you found me.
Dad, are you all right?
I'm fine, but you've got to get out of here.
We're here to get you out, Dad.
Never mind me. Save yourselves.
No, we're not leaving you. I think I can recalibrate the Combine portal to get us out of here.
It's not worth the risk, Alex. I can't lose you. Get out while you can.
We're not leaving here without you. That's final. I'm not saying goodbye, Dad. We'll meet you there.
I know you will. I'll see you there, lady.
Next to Gordon, Alex is the greatest hope for the Resistance and future generations. With her father's keen mind and ambitious ability, Eli's request to leave him isn't only because she's his progeny. The only questionable part of this whole thing is Alex's magic wand. This thing opens doors and hacks computers at will. It's more unbelievable than the gravity gun, and it's more of the Deus Ex Machina than anything else in the game. Alex and Gordon escape through the teleporter and are greeted by Dr. Kleiner. This scene hits hard and sets the table for the next course of this meal.
Alex? Gordon? My God, how did you get here? And when?
What's wrong?
My dear, I had given up hope of ever seeing you again.
I was afraid we might not make it either. I think the teleport exploded just as we were porting out.
Indeed it did, and the repercussions were felt far and wide, but that was over a week ago.
What do you mean? Gordon and I were just there a minute ago.
Fascinating.
Then what have we missed?
A great deal, my dear. The blow you struck at Nova Prospekt was taken as a signal to begin the uprising.
But what about my father?
Well, that is most troubling. According to the Vortigaunts, he is a prisoner at the Citadel.
We've got to get my father out.
And another of your friends arrived several days ago.
Dog, you made it! Good boy.
With the rebellion in full swing and the Combine weakened, Gordon and Dog hit the scene to tip the scales in the rebellion's favor. Dog proves exactly why he has the title of Goodest Boy and tackles a gunship by himself. Fuck yeah. There are two things we don't do in this game. We don't go to Ravenholm, and we don't fuck with Dog. He seriously steals every moment he's around, and in a full cast of great characters, Dog is amazing. Running through the streets of City 17 with a contingent of rebels and a full arsenal is incredible. Now that we've unlocked all the weapons, let's quickly go over a few of them, as they're part of what makes this game legendary. All the weapons are organized by a category that is assigned to one of the number keys 1 through 6. Pressing a number will bring up a drop-down menu, and you can select one of the weapons by pressing mouse 1. This is the classic design of the Half-Life 1 weapon selection system, and I have always admired and preferred it when it comes to first-person shooters with a large arsenal. Whereas Doom made you reach over on the keyboard to select the BFG, all of Half-Life's weapons are accessible with the number keys right next to your movement keys. The trade-off is an extra button press or two to get the right weapon selected, but it's still my preference to removing my left hand out of the keyboard positioning in the heat of battle, or scrolling through all of the weapons on the mouse wheel. None of the weapons share ammunition, so there is no concern of ammo usage limiting your options in a fight. Half-Life was one of the first games to introduce an alternate fire mode for most of their guns as well, which adds more depth and options to the combat. The starting pistol is based on the USP Match firearm by H&K. It is a beautifully modeled weapon with the extended barrel modification attached to the front. That little extra meat in the front of the slide actually serves a purpose and conceals the barrel that extends an inch or so beyond the slide. This pistol is also the closest thing to a sniper rifle until we unlock the Magnum and later the crossbow in Highway 17. It is accurate at a surprisingly long range, and the damage may be low, but the semi-automatic fire will discharge as fast as you can squeeze mouse 1. I found this starting weapon to be useful throughout the entire campaign. The Magnum has very limited ammo at 18 rounds, but it is immensely powerful. It's the most powerful and accurate ballistic weapon in the lineup, and is extremely useful at all ranges. I try to conserve ammo, as it's pretty scarce for combat balance, but it will always kill an enemy in one shot, as long as it's a headshot. So it's especially useful when you're overwhelmed, and you need to quickly thin enemy numbers to regain the advantage. And never underestimate the power of the crowbar in a pinch. It has saved my sorry ass more than once if I ran out of ammo in close quarters. The SMG is a great all-around option with an attached grenade launcher for groups of Combine. Long-distance fighting isn't really viable, as the accuracy is pretty trash, but its bigger brother, the Combine Pulse Rifle, is just a click away. It has superior shot-for-shot power with better accuracy, and the alternate fire mode lets loose a wild ball of terror that bounces off of surfaces and vaporizes anybody in its path. It's a great addition to the lineup, but the shotgun is the true workhorse of the group. Close to medium range is the specialty of this semi-automatic weapon, and it is a great representation of the real Spaz 12, and it feels like any AAA shotgun should. A meaty recoil, muzzle flash, and gun report blaze a path of blood and glory through the forces of oppression and slavery. The alternate fire mode transcends physics and fires 2 shells at once without a second barrel or trigger. It's hilarious and satisfying. I'll gladly trade realism in a game, with magic science armor, gravity manipulation, and Alex's magic wand in favor of pure fun and catharsis. The weapons let loose and play into the power fantasy, with Gordon rarely dying or becoming overpowered by enemies. This is not the bullet ballet of Doom Eternal, and its ever-changing gameplay to ensure you have enough ammo. This is pure Boomer Burger gunplay, with extra sauce on the bun. The crossbow is an unholy mixture of medieval torture and modern construction, as the bolts appear to be superheated lengths of rebar that penetrate any body armor or surface. Don't ask me how it works, because I neither know nor do I give a shit. This thing pins bad guys to walls and puts them in permanent timeouts, and the bolts will even ricochet off of surfaces if you shoot at the right angle. So if you're good enough, you can pin enemies to walls around cover. I'll let you guess how many times I pulled that off.
0 stones, 0 crates!
Despite my skill level, there is always the great equalizer of the gravity gun. We touched on this before, but it cannot be understated how awesome it is to pick up a barrel and boldly approach a turret that can't shoot past your makeshift shield, only to then launch that shield at their bewildered faces. Low on ammo? No problem.
The world is your litter box!
All these options really make combat a breeze most of the time. Even though it's not really difficult, it is very fun. And that is the true advantage of a game with so much boomer shooter energy. It should be fun, and Half-Life has never fallen in the same category as Unreal Tournament or Quake. It has striking similarities to those Twitch shooters, but the storytelling, graphics, and even the combat has always had a bit of a different feel to me. This next, penultimate section of the game really puts things into high gear for pacing and impact. With all the weapons at Gordon's disposal, it's still a hard fight in the battered and war-torn streets of City 17. I love this fight in the tunnels below the city, where these soldiers are fortified behind barricades and turrets. There are quite a few explosive barrels just sitting nearby and begging to be launched at the Combine, but that's what they want you to do. With the constant barrage of gunfire assaulting your approach, pulling in a barrel for an attack is a dangerous proposition. If you're fast enough, you can pull it off, but that means getting closer to the turrets. Taking out the soldiers with the crossbow is also limited, with all the ruined cars blocking a clear shot. Dealing with them isn't quite as easy as expected, and after clearing them out, a torrent of manhacks flood the tunnels, and soldiers approach from the rear. Like they set a trap to ambush you, and the reinforcements just missed their mark. You can then use the turrets to take out the assault, and it feels like a genuine close call. If the manhacks and soldiers had showed up just a moment before, this little group of survivors would have perished. Also, the Citadel pops into view through a gap in the concrete tunnels as the manhacks descend with a vengeance. Like the Eye of Sauron, sending waves of orcs to destroy us. It was a brilliant moment, and it was thrilling and satisfying to gain the upper hand in this near miss of an ambush. Almost every encounter through the city is this thrilling, with hopper mines, drones, zombies, soldiers, gunships, and striders to wipe out the resistance. Everything we've seen and done to this point finally culminates in a full-scale city war. We meet back up with Alex and make a stand in the streets to clear the way, but she is captured by the Combine in a scripted event. I will say that the animations of her climbing this building to get a better view of the area are excellent, even though her capture is a little contrived. With Alex gone and no way to chase after her, we continue to rendezvous with Barney. And now that Gordon is here, more and more people rally to the cause. Gordon has become the symbol and heart of the resistance, and Anti-Citizen 1 makes you feel like a leader. Rebels flock to you and offer compliments and thanks for your effort.
Hey,
It's Freeman! You're not leaving without me!
And when they die in battle, it really pisses me off that I wasn't able to protect them. Resistance members will take the weapons off the Combine bodies and upgrade their gear as you take the streets back from the opposing forces.
This'll do nicely.
They feel like regular people that have gone to war out of necessity. They aren't battle-hardened warriors, but they are still brothers and sisters in arms, loyal and committed. With a strong leader, they would follow them into the gates of Hell, if for no other reason than Hell would be an improvement to City 17. The whole vibe in this section is a giant but the struggle is real, and there will be casualties. The mighty Strider is king of the streets. The Combine have conquered many species and worlds before Earth, and they adopt elements of their victims into their weaponry. The Striders and airborne gunships represent some of the strongest species that have fallen to this regime, and their appearance is completely alien and antithetical to our more pedestrian understandings of military weapons and power. I have to applaud the art direction and enemy designs. They are cool as hell and well thought out. Striders are the heavy tank units of the Combine, and they are formidable as fuck. Like tall crab cannons on spindly legs that can peer onto rooftops, as well as crouching down to look into bunkers and ruins. Airborne probes will help the Striders if you're hiding from them, and if you see a camera flash nearby, then a Strider will attack your location moments later. Very cool stuff indeed. This area is crawling with them, and they take roughly 7 rockets to finish off, and they explode into fleshy bits of gun and carapace. They are the most challenging foes in the game, and they are protecting the most sensitive parts of the city, namely the Citadel and the suppression field. Knocking out the suppression field is a major goal and step towards victory for the Resistance, but meeting up with Barney means taking out more sniper nests. Once Barney and Gordon have teamed up,
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
They go for the suppression field. This is located in an old city building like the courts or city hall and is well protected. Once on the grounds, we have to deal with a rooftop cannon that has a cool animation that is similar to a satellite death ray. It is only in this part of the game and is never seen again. Some good folks at Valve spent months of labor to animate and program this section that takes roughly 5 or 6 minutes to get through. Really outstanding effort was put into this entire section, and there was very little fat to lose. Everything feels relevant and makes sense for story progression. The clear goals really help to ratchet the tension and urgency of the whole situation. Breen, making public announcements, has made an appeal directly to Gordon that, once again, only serves to strengthen the determination to take out this existential threat.
Directly, Dr. Freeman. Yes, I'm talking to you, the so-called one free man. I have a question for you. How could you have thrown it all away? It staggers the mind. Make no mistake, Dr. Freeman. This is not a scientific revolution you've sparked. This is death and finality. Help me win back their trust, Dr. Freeman. Surrender while you still can. Help ensure that humanity's trust in you is not misguided.
This game is outstanding for the pacing, and I always had a clear path and motivation to continue. Entering the building feels like it was an old government establishment that was cleared out and repurposed for a Combine base they call the Nexus. And the level design isn't half bad either. Clearing room after room just to unlock new areas and fights in the old domain is hard, not only because of the soldiers, but these ground turrets pop up and deal massive damage. They are everywhere and can only be destroyed by rolling a grenade into the housing before it closes and protects itself from damage. There is also a heavily guarded supply depot that teases something good if you're willing to brave the laser detection and turrets. No fucking thanks to Barney's big mouth.
Wow. That much security, there must be something good in there. Go for it, Doc. I'll wait here till you shut it down.
I died quite a few times trying to find the exact path they wanted me to take, until I managed to get to the shutoff switch. I was pissed that all there was a little bit of health and some alt-fire ammo for the pulse rifle.
Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a bitch.
Don't bother with that crap. Finally, shutting down the suppressor, we need to open a sky bridge that leads to a hell of a fight on the rooftop of the Nexus. Anti-Citizen 1 is the best part of the game, and it is aged like fine wine. After extending the sky bridge to allow rebels and survivors through the blockade, there was a climactic battle through the rooftop ruins, with Strider and Soldier alike. No less than 3 of the damn things obliterate chunks of the ruins as they assault our position. Resistance members popping up to lend a hand, and a welcome smile highlights what this fight is all about. Humanity's tomorrow may be uncertain, but today is anything but. Steel resolve and firepower win out over oppression and tyranny. When the last strider falls, the cheering of the survivors and epic score nail the feeling within the player of hard work and courage paying off. The hard work is not yet done, as the Citadel beckons within proximity. It has never been closer or more imposing.
Dog came crashing through the plaza, knocking over walls, and I think he's looking for Alex. He seems to have it set in his head that she's in the Citadel. I figured Alex wouldn't want him getting any deeper in trouble, but hell, you try stopping him. Hey, dog! Not there! You can't get through that way! Well, I'll be damned. I think he wants you to go through, Gordon. You'd better hurry. And if you see Dr. Breen, tell him I said...
After mowing through the Combine forces with Barney, we are reunited with Dog very briefly. The way to the Citadel is opened, and we must go alone. The design of this towering edifice is staggering, and making our way inside needs some platforming. I'm not really a fan of the bits of platforming in this game, but they are blessedly pretty rare. This particular jumping section reveals the foundations of the Citadel a long way into the crust of the earth. Not really anchored to the rock or sandstone, but like a javelin that was hurled by a cosmic giant, simply piercing the target and destroying anything that was in the way. Even their architecture embodies their deleterious mindset, and it really makes me wonder how much good may have come about if the Combine were more like Star Trek and made contact with the intent of learning as much as we could from each other. Slipping in through a hole at the base of the structure makes me feel like a rat. The inside of this thing is even more strange and unusual than the outside. Translucent tubes and conduits run up the length to unseen heights. The blue and black metal that makes up the walls are dark and unwelcoming. Strange knocking and groaning can be heard from unknown places, made by unknown machines and foreign bodies. It is one of the coolest places I have ever been in a game, and games take us to some awesome fucking places. This is reminiscent of the ship in Event Horizon and Dead Space, guided by a malicious will and completely unrelatable to human sensibilities. The atmosphere is heavy and palpable, as no one seems to have noticed our arrival. If you have somehow never played this game before, you're about to be in for a real treat. With nowhere to go but up, we climb into a containment vessel that shuttles us to parts unknown. I absolutely love that the game allows a choice of which vessel to climb aboard, and the wrong choice is very obvious. But you are allowed to be a strong, silent, and dumb protagonist if you wish. Going through the Citadel on the tramway gives us the nickel tour, and we see some stunning and horrifying sights along the way. The strength on display from striders, gunships, and soldiers is truly gut-wrenching when you think of the paltry numbers the Resistance has outside these walls. It almost makes the thrilling victory we just experienced minutes before seem hollow. Miles of pods and trains endlessly bringing in mountains of bodies for this machine, it's just awful. Our sightseeing tram ride finally stops in a room that relieves us of all of our weapons, ripped from our hands and disintegrated one by one in front of us, until finally the gravity gun gets the same treatment.
By the power of Grayskull!
Instead of getting vaporized, it seems to get overpowered and gains a blue-white glow, like righteous anger and defiance personified into this object. Yeah, we don't need those guns anymore. This is gonna be good.
This is Cringer.
Leveling the playing field with the hand of God is an absolute blast. Never mind what I said earlier about overwhelming forces and odds, because these guys don't stand a fucking chance. The gravity gun is supercharged, and so is Gordon's HEV suit. The ominous tower that was the Citadel becomes a violent playground and encapsulates the power fantasy model, and I'm grateful that Valve gave us such a moment to play with. Breen talks shit through the various monitors as he shits his pants, watching Gordon tear through the place. Retribution is at hand, and this traitorous bastard has a lot to answer for. Manhacks, soldiers, and even striders can't stop Gordon. After that excellent bit of catharsis, there is nowhere to go but into another containment vessel. This time we are flagged and get a one-way ticket to Breen's office. This exotic getaway affords a view that makes us feel small and insignificant in the scale and breadth of the world we inhabit. Especially in 2004, this view was magnificent and breathtaking. Today it could use some work, but it's still one of the best moments to be found.
Let the power return!
I'll take him from here. Don't struggle, it's no use. Until you're where he wants you, there's nothing you can do. I'm sorry, Gordon.
Intelligences, worlds stretched thin across the membranes where the dimensions intersect. Impossible to describe with our limited vocabulary.
What I've seen is also beyond words, Breen. Genocide. Indescribable evil. Good God.
Well, if it isn't Gordon Freeman at last. What's this? I'll put it over there.
Breen showcases his intelligence by casting aside the gravity gun that we just used to destroy battalions of troops moments ago. Truly the greatest mind of his age, and his hubris is well realized.
If I'd known you were going to come straight up to my office, I wouldn't have bothered hunting you in the first place.
I love everything about this scene, with Eli and Alex remaining true to character. Judith realizing there is never going to be a winning outcome with Breen, and the self-doubt on her ability to finish Eli's work really hit her hard. She has genuine feelings for Eli, and her love and self-doubt ultimately give her the courage to stand fast against Breen. Even the fourth wall break about pawns and control is great.
You're more than qualified to finish his research yourself.
Alex, honey.
Dad. Gordon?
God damn you, Breen, you let her go.
That's all up to you, my old friend. Will you let your stubborn short-sightedness doom the entire species, or will you give your child the chance her mother never had?
How dare you even mention her?
Alex, my dear, you have your mother's eyes, but your father's stubborn nature.
You haven't seen a bit of it yet.
Really? Well, let's see how well it serves you on the far side of a combined portal.
Go ahead, Breen. If that's the worst you can do, send us both through your portal.
Oh, it's hardly the worst. But you might find that hard to believe once you get there.
It isn't necessary.
I agree. It's a total waste. Fortunately, the Resistance has shown it is willing to accept a new leader. And this one has proven to be a fine pawn for those who control him.
No!
Don't listen to him, Gordon.
How about it, Dr. Freeman? Did you realize your contract was open to the highest bidder?
Gordon would never make any kind of deal with you.
I understand if you don't wish to discuss this in front of your friends. I'll send them on their way, and then we can talk openly.
Don't struggle, honey.
Dad, I'm so sorry.
Alex, sweetheart.
Judith, what do you think you're doing?
We're doing what I could never do alone. We're stopping you.
Yes.
Guards, get in here. They know you betrayed them. They'll turn on you. Judith, Dr. Mossman, please.
I'm sorry, Wallace. You're You're all out of time. Don't...
Hurry! Dad, hang on!
You fool!
Watch out, he's gonna...
No! Don't worry about me, honey.
There's no time, Alex. He's on his way to the portal. You'll need this.
Dr. Mossman, Judith, look after my father.
Don't you worry.
Dad, I'm not saying goodbye.
Never.
Come on, Gordon. Let's go.
This style of storytelling is actually very difficult to pull off, and this is one of the few silent protagonists I enjoyed playing. I really didn't care for Metro Exodus, almost entirely because the writing didn't suit a silent protagonist style, and the tongue-in-cheek references made about it in the Metro series only pissed me off that I didn't have a voice in the game. Here, the fact the player doesn't have an actual voice is less important because Half-Life understands how loud actions can be. The player has real impact and consequences for the world and characters. I have never played a game that tells such a compelling narrative and the main character never says a word. The double-edged sword of this storytelling style is that it really needs to be a linear experience, without any choices to make in order to stay compelling. We're watching an action movie with a plot, not really playing a game with choices. And that's okay, because like your favorite movies that tell great stories you remember years later, Half-Life 2 does the same thing. Watching those movies and enjoying the experience again and again while noticing new and different things you may not have before is true with this game as well. This is comfort food. This is good cinema. This is a good game. And the fight at the top of the tower while Breen attempts to escape is the definition of climactic. The cliffhanger ending calls back to the original Half-Life, with the enigmatic G-Man putting us away like a used toy. But that's okay too, because it fits the Half-Life motif. And this lackluster denouement is addressed in the following episodes 1 and 2, which are the next games I'm covering together in one video in the near future, and we'll dig into the inscrutable G-Man and Alex further. Subscribe if you want to be notified when it drops, and it'll make your mother happy. Shit, what a ride. I forgot half of the shit that happens in this game, and I was amazed. Half-Life 2 is a legendary title for a reason, and it holds up 20 years later for a multitude of reasons more, not least of which is the compelling story and the family drama, mixed with the apocalyptic science fiction of alien invasion. The state-of-the-art graphics of the day have aged well enough, with some of the rough edges being more pronounced than I like to admit, but age can forgive all of those shortcomings. The gunplay and combat are excellent, with tight controls, beautiful models, ragdoll effects, and sound design. The world is incredibly well realized, with enemies and NPCs alike having well-defined roles. Nothing feels out of place or superfluous. And the gravity gun is still the highlight of the experience. This seminal title is a masterstroke that seamlessly blends story, action, and physics simulation. If it's been a while since you've played it, or if you never have, then I urge you to experience this venerable game with fresh eyes and feel the power of this fantasy. You don't really need your old man to tell you this game is good, and once again I am loath to give a number grade to such a timeless classic, but if pressed, I would rate Half-Life 2 a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's not far off either. Half-Life broke the mold in 1998, and Half-Life 2 inspired countless more in its wake since 2004. The legacy it left has ripples still affecting the industry, maybe even more so than its predecessor, but Half-Life had to walk so Half-Life 2 could run. I can't wait to see some future titles fly. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up to help me out. Leave a comment and make a suggestion for future projects, and maybe consider subscribing to help out your old man and stay in touch. Take care, you crazy kids.